this is John Colo with growingyourgreens.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you. I'm here in Florida, at the west coast of Florida, here in Spring Hill, Florida, outside the Tampa area. The reason today is because I'm at the Green Dreams FL, or Green Dreams Florida. Pete Kanaris, who has an amazing YouTube channel, linked down below to that so you can see all his amazing content. But aside from making content himself, he has an amazing nursery. I was here originally, I think maybe like 6-7 years ago now. Links down below to my original video where I visited him at his homestead property. And now he bought property down the street, literally, that's 7 acres off the one of the main roads here. And he started a nursery like I think a couple years ago. So this place is completely amazing. He's done a lot of work because this basically was just like a junkyard for people throwing their garbage, and he had to like clear out all the garbage and basically turn this into the nursery it is today. And 50% of the plants that he offers at present time, he actually grows on site himself. And the other thing that's very important for you guys out there in YouTube land is that he will ship to you guys. Unlike a lot of the nurseries I visit, right, he is certified to ship to all 50 states. Yes, including California. So in this episode, I want to really highlight some of the amazing plants that I love so much that Pete could ship you, so that you could also start growing these edible fruits, and more importantly, edible perennial leafy green vegetables. We are here in a zone 9B. So if you live in a zone 9A, yeah, maybe you could get away with some of these depending on a microclimate. If you're in a zone 8, you know, maybe if you want to experiment, that's up to you, but definitely a zone 9B, all these should totally thrive. And a zone 9A, yeah, maybe some protection or the right microclimate, you'll probably be able to grow some of these as well. So let's head inside the nursery and check out what Pete's got growing on. All right, guys, so when you get to the nursery, there's a few things going on. You're gonna park, and then this is the main nursery building where you're gonna check out, and they can help you out. And he has lots of different kinds of edibles and even non-edibles that you could buy in person. And the prices in person are a little bit less than if you buy them online. And also too, when he ships you guys plants, he only ships up to 3 gallons for fruit trees, and I think 4-inch pots for some of the edible vegetables. And if you come here in person, which is always better, you know, you could buy larger pot sizes, including up to 65 gallons of some of the fruit trees. So what I want to do first for you guys is actually take you guys around a few of the areas that he's actually planted out, to give you guys an example of what you could do on your property to grow more food that looks beautiful too. All right, guys, so I really wanted to show you guys this. This is a really excellent example of how you can grow food with existing crops. So you can see he has these existing tall, I believe they're like oak trees, and then down below it he's created a little area where he's planted all edibles. So we have some of my favorites, including the Katuk right here, which has the edible leaves. This actually happens to be a variegated Katuk. And then down below we have the Sissoo spinach, or Brazilian spinach. This is the common Sissoo spinach with like the curly leaf. But then if we walk around, you can see basically around the outside border, he has all the Sissoo spinach, and then he has Katuk planted, and then in the middle, he has some kind of bananas that are staying nice and protected under the oaks, so they haven't got the burn from the frost. And I want to show you guys this real quick, because this is something I just learned about. This is the Sissoo spinach, that's the common type. And then he also has the flat leaf Sissoo spinach, which is right next door. So that was new to me, and I like that he actually planted the standard Sissoo and then the flat leaf Sissoo, which actually I like better, because the curly leaf Sissoo, like it bugs and stuff, they're harder to wash. I really love the flat leaf, so actually I'm going to be taking home one of these today. It's Brazilian spinach. You can eat it raw or actually cook with it. And then over in this part of the nursery, he has a lot of different, mostly Jaboticaba trees, which actually I want to highlight for you guys right now. Standard Jaboticaba trees could take up to 10 years to fruit and take a very long time to fruit. Pete has identified a cultivar known as the Scarlet Jaboticaba, which is this guy right here, that will fruit from seed, guys, from seed in 3 years. This is one of the fastest producing fruit trees. Also, this is a very cold tolerant fruit tree for a tropical fruit tree. Now, yeah, it's not gonna handle a frost or anything like that. They did get like 26 degrees for like 5 hours, and some of the big ones they got tip burn, but the trees are totally fine. This produces reliably here in, once again, zone 9B. So if you're in a zone 9A, got a nice microclimate, you might want to try getting a Jaboticaba. And this is the Scarlet variety. Fruits from seed in 3 years. If you have like a little plant, it could just be 2 years, because you know when you get a plant, and actually this size right now is a fruiting size. And actually, guess what? I'm going to be taking home this one with me today. So yeah, the Jaboticabas. You know, they're basically like a tree grape. Maybe I'll get to try one a little bit later when we go into the greenhouse. One of the cool things I like about this nursery is that he's really tried to incorporate some of the edibles that he sells into the landscaping. So once again, alongside these big trees, I see like turmeric and ginger. He's got like Okinawan spinach, sweet potatoes growing, but I really want to highlight this bed here because this is amazing. If you guys have like large trees like this, you know, down below it is a nice shady area. This is like the perfect plant that is edible, that looks amazing. I mean, it has this whole area now with the longevity spinach, or Gynera procumbens, one of my favorite greens. And you know, this one is actually cold hardy to like 33. If it's 32, it doesn't like it, doesn't make it. But even at 33, these guys will shine and do great. I grow these in Vegas, and they're not even really hurt at 33, so that's why I love this a lot. Just at 32, they're not okay. But you can see here, I mean, they had a recent frost, 26 degrees for 5 hours, and you can see I don't see any burn on any of these, and there's like a nice whole area. So if you have an area like underneath a bunch of overstory trees, even that's not getting full sun, right? Longevity spinach would be a great thing to plant. I personally grow longevity spinach like up trellis, so I got to pin it up so it grows up a wall. It doesn't necessarily like to do that, so I got to use a lot of you know, clips to make it happen. But as you guys can see, it really loves this environment where it's like nice and moist underneath the tree. Lots of food for you guys to eat. What I want to do next for you guys is actually take you to some of the tables, because once again, he's approved to ship to all 50 states, especially California, some of these rare crops. We're gonna share with you guys some of the greens of Sissoo, the longevity, as well as some other greens that you can plant as understory crops or even in your garden bed to have them year round and eat out of your garden, right? I'm really for planting things that are a lot lower maintenance. Like if you plant lettuce, you can plant the lettuce once, it basically makes the head, you harvest the head, or if you don't harvest the head, it goes to seed and goes to flower and stops producing leaves for you to eat. Whereas if you plant a longevity spinach, you could like literally take cuttings from it and stick them in the ground and grow more, right? It's a much more better investment to grow, because you could plant it once and literally eat forever, or at least as long as you keep the plants alive. So let's check out some of these amazing greens that he sells you here. All right, so we're gonna start off here with some of the perennial greens that I like a lot. I'm actually growing this one in Puerto Rico, but it grows amazingly here as well. It didn't like my dry climate in Las Vegas, so it probably likes a little bit more humid than that. The other thing I wanna mention is that the in-person pricing is less than the online price, because he has to use a box and do shipping and stuff for you. But anyways, this is the nice Sissoo spinach 4-inch. Look at how amazing this looks. I mean, the most amazing thing to me is that, you know, Pete has been certified to ship to all 50 states. You know, most nurseries I visit, they don't want to have to go through all the hassle it takes to be able to get certified to ship to all 50 states, but Pete can do it. So now you can get some of these rare edibles established, planted, propagated, even spread out to other people near you, so you guys can grow a lot more food. The Sissoo is definitely not one of my most favorite. The flavor's not as good as some of the other perennial greens, but once again, you know, this can grow like literally neglected. And it's good after all. All right, guys, next two leafy greens I like a lot are the Suriname spinach and the variegated Suriname spinach. These ones have a lot more tender leaf, whereas the Sissoo spinach, the leaf is more fibrous. This is a lot more tender. Kind of think of like a purslane, but not as mucilaginous. a really nice flavor. But yeah, these would be great ground covers. They also do go to seed and will drop seed and then will basically come up from seed. That's how they've been propagating that's how I've been growing them myself, basically. They drop seeds every year and then new plants come up, and I always have this once you buy it just once. All right guys, so next up we're gonna share with you guys a long leaf Sissoo. So this is the new one to me, and I like this a lot more than the curly leaf Sissoo. Let's go ahead and try a leaf for you on the camera here. These leaves are a little bit more thicker. I think this is why they'd be better cooked than raw, because they're like really fibrous and kind of dry on the drier side, whereas like the other one that I just had was the other leafy green was like more on the wet side. And then if we gonna go for a in-between, I would definitely recommend the Katuk. That's where you saw interplanted above the Sissoo. And these Katuks are amazing. They have like a nice nutty flavor for a leafy green. So yeah, these are nice cuttings of Katuk. And actually I like that he does dual cuttings in each pot, whereas most people will just do a single cutting. He does dual cuttings, so you have actually twice the growth and twice the opportunity for success than just a single. All right, let's go to another part of the nursery where he has inventory that he can ship you that has been certified to all 50 states. All right guys, so we're in another area of the nursery, and there's different areas. So that's like the public area. Now this is the restricted area for employees only, because he basically specially grows the plants for shipping that are separate than the plants that are for the locals. The locals get a little bit different soil mix than the ones for shipping, which are grown in a pro mix. And that's why this area is restricted, because this is basically grown for shipping. So it'll be basically clean and certified. So let's find a few more of the amazing greens and other fruits he can ship you that are quite rare, unique, and gonna perform well in your garden. All right, so some of the plants that he ships in the 1 gallons, he has like cherry, the Rio Grande, and the Suriname cherries that will perform pretty good in the zone 9B. They're definitely more cold hardy, and they're gonna be more like a, you know, like a traditional cherry that you're used to. So I started planting these as like hedges. They produce really nice fruits that are quite edible, and they can be productive year round. All right guys, one of the trees I want you to buy for sure, because this is probably one of my favorite ones that he sells here, and I wish he had some in the ground so I could see how they grow, the growth habit here in his zone 9B in Spring Hill, Florida, is the Bele. You know, a lot of places that sell Bele online will basically sell you like from AgriStarts, like just like a little like clone, and they're like super tiny babies. Here you're gonna get like real cuttings that have been rooted that are gonna be much further along. Of course, we are here in the winter time, and they got down to, once again, 26 degrees for 5 hours. So these guys basically don't grow as quickly during that time. Otherwise they could be like fully, you know, flushed out and doing really good. You guys can see the roots are already coming out of these little 4-inch pots. And I always encourage you guys to buy larger plants whenever possible, right? Smaller plants are not as tolerant to abuse, whether that's overwatering, underwatering, or pests, whereas more mature plants that are older are gonna be more resilient, so you have a higher probability of success. So I'm so glad these sells. I think he sells 4 different kinds of the Bele or Abelmoschus, manihot, which some people call the edible leaf hibiscus, which formerly used to be a type of hibiscus, but is not related to the standard cranberry hibiscus or the roselle or the false roselle, also known as the cranberry hibiscus. All right guys, so this is the second time I'm seeing these, and these are some of my favorite cactus actually. So did you know the cactus pads are edible? Also, of course, you can eat the cactus fruits that they produce, and I'm so glad that Pete here is offering, basically, I call this the Mickey Mouse cactus. What does that look like? Looks like a Mickey Mouse. It basically has the mouse with the 2 Mickey Mouse ears. This is actually a really pretty variegated Nopales cactus that is spineless. So I love just the look of this. I mean, this looks like artwork to me, and I love that actually he has these, and he'll ship them to you, because these can be kind of fragile to ship, but he'll make that happen for you guys. The Mickey Mouse variegated cactus or Nopales, once again, also edible. All right guys, so I'm always on the lookout for cool, rare, unique plants, and I found another one here just wandering around. I mean, you could just, if you come here, you're gonna see so many cool plants, you better bring your checkbook. I don't even know if he takes checks, so bring your credit cards, because he has a lot of cool, rare stuff you're not gonna find. But this one is called chocolate bubblegum, but now I have to highly disagree on his Latin name, and he says Theobroma cacao. I guarantee this is not Theobroma cacao. I just planted Theobroma cacao, which is the cacao or chocolate tree on my property in Puerto Rico. This is definitely not it. So I definitely got to call out Pete on ensuring that his Latin names are accurate as to what they are, because I think I might have seen a few other potential issues with naming something that's not proper. So yeah, do your own research. Nonetheless, these pots are labeled chocolate bubblegum. So to me, they look like it's either like it's in the like basil mint family. I'm gonna say it's more like a basil than a mint myself, based on the growth habit. But amazingly, when you pick, you know, some of the baby growth, or I'll actually just top this, I'll get the little flower tip with some of the leaves, and you eat it. I mean, it's amazing. Like, it seriously has like a bubblegum slash light chocolate flavor. It's like one of the most delicious basil mints or whatever it is I've tasted in quite some time. Super unique, super different, unlike anything else. You definitely got to try this one. All right, guys, so now we're going to go into the shade house, and this is for employees only, another restricted area, because most of the plants in this shade house over on this side are actually for propagation and for shipping to you guys. And then on the other side, he has maybe a few fruit trees he might be selling in larger containers, but this is his main collection of old school Jaboticaba. Is one of his favorite fruits that fruits and does quite well here, and maybe I'll be lucky to find a ripe fruit to try for you guys on camera. Today we are here in early January. All right, guys, so this is the main area where he has the plants that he'll ship you, a lot of the 4-inchers of all the different greens. Let's see if we could find any kind of good ones. He's also doing a lot of the propagation here of some of the plants that get actually put up into the 4-inchers. Like, we got the Cuban oregano here, some of the different mints. Like, I think this is like a native mimosa. Here's one I want to stop on right now. He's got the curry tree that you could actually also eat the fruits on. Next door, he also has another one of my favorites. This is the Chaya. This looks like the large leaf Chaya. You could eat this green. It's like tree spinach. You have to cook this green or it can be toxic. So this is a large leaf. He also has another Chaya type here, which is like a more narrow leaf as well. So I think he's got like 3 different kinds of Chaya. All right, guys, so on the other side of the shade house, basically has a lot of his own personal collection that really aren't for sale, but everything has a price. And he's basically growing the Jaboticabas. Some of them are like 10+ years old, 65-gallon pots. So I mean, that's always an opportunity for you if you guys want to grow that tropical fruit tree and keep it in a pot, right? Wheel it out in the summer, wheel it in the winter. These trees will easily produce in the pots. So let's see if we could find a ripe fruit today. This is basically a red grafted tree. And what Pete has found out is that, you know, when these go through like a cold spell, that basically stresses the plant out, and then that causes them to flower. So currently, because they're just going through a cold spell, they're currently starting to flower once again, and they'll be basically the tree grapes. They'll be all little fruits up this whole stem. Each one of these is a little flower that's forming that will end up turning into a fruit. And you can see, like, especially down by the bottom, there's a lot of these little you know, flowers that are forming that will once again turn into fruit. So let's see if we can find one. All right, guys, so I found a fruit on a red Jaboticaba. It's actually just really small, so you guys can see it. It should be a lot larger, of course, but I'll take what I could get since I'm here in January. He's been having some problems with the chipmunks and the birds. So you guys can see here's a little Jaboticaba fruit. Could be riper, but they just grow on the stem or the trunk of the tree. We're gonna pull it off. Yeah, it could be way riper. But yeah, these are basically like tree grapes. They're super dark. This is a red variety. I wish I was trying the Scarlet variety. That is actually a variety that fruits in 3 years from seed. Wow. Even though it's young, it's actually seedless because it's so young. It's really sweet, has a good flavor. I'd rather eat one of these than any kind of just table grape any day of the year. These are amazing. And to find out that these could fruit from 3 years in seed, if you get the Scarlet variety, which is the kind that he's doing in mass production, is amazing. All right, guys, so one of the things that I want you guys to know for sure is that, you know, not all Jaboticabas fruit quickly, right? This is a Grimmel Jaboticaba. Some of these trees Pete has had for over 10 years and they haven't fruited yet. And some of them can take a very long time, and most of the trees of Jaboticabas that you would buy online are the kind that you may have to wait 10 years before they even fruit, right? That's why it's really special. The Scarlet variety that Pete has found and basically, you know, educates people about can fruit in 3 years. And a matter of fact, some of the ones in the 1 gallons might just fruit in 2 years from the time he ships them to you. And that's just completely amazing. So let's take a look at some of these Scarlet Jaboticabas that'll fruit sooner than some of the old school varieties that you're gonna find in other nurseries. All right, guys, so what you're looking at here are basically 1 gallon Jaboticabas that he could ship you. Super nice, healthy plants that'll probably produce within 2 years from this size, maybe even a year or so. And that's completely amazing. And once again, these can literally flourish in a zone 9B. All the ones in the 65 gallons that are in the shade house, it doesn't get covered or heated. Once again, got to 26, had a little bit of tip burn. I mean, on this table here, I'm barely seeing any tip burn on them. But yeah, it's just amazing to me that this amazing tropical fruit can grow in a zone 9B. And if you have a zone 9A, I would say try it. You just want to definitely put it in some kind of area that is protected, okay? And yeah, you're gonna get fruit sooner rather than later. That's why I'm taking home one of these Jaboticabas Scarlets myself today, so I could be eating them in just a few years myself. All right, guys, so I'm wandering around the nursery and I definitely want to bring you guys these. These are loquats. I grow loquats myself. All my trees are seedling loquats. Grow easily in a zone 9A. They'll do great here in a zone 9B as well. And you know, here Pete has some name varieties and some of the best name varieties. Of course, he has the Big Jim, which is known for its nice large loquats, but he has another variety called Yehuda, and the Yehuda variety, he says, has the best flavor. So I'm really curious about trying the Yehuda loquats, because the loquats to me, I mean, they're good, but he says this tastes not even like a loquat. So I'm really interested in trying that one day. So yeah, if you have loquats, you might want to try to get the best variety, not a seedling variety from like you know, your local nursery, but a name variety. And I would definitely recommend trying this Yehuda, and let me know what it tastes like, or when it fruits, I might even come visit you to try it. All right, guys, another fruit that I learned about that'll do great here in zone 9B, produce regularly and reliably. I was, you know, really amazed to find out that Starfruits will produce here very well. And check it out. They do all their Starfruit grafting here on site. So any Starfruit tree you buy from them, they've grafted themselves, and they will literally fruit in this little small pot when you buy it. So this will already start making fruit even at this small size. Look at this. You can see there's just tons of flowers on this Starfruit, and Starfruit can fruit multiple times a year for you guys. This happens to be the Fwang Tongue variety. I know that makes a nice large Starfruit, a very popular variety. There's so many different kinds of Starfruit. I encourage you guys, if you guys grow Starfruits, to eat them, don't juice them. They do have some oxalate content that may be problematic for some people, especially if you have kidney problems. But Starfruit is a nice refreshing fruit. They don't travel or ship well, so you've never had a good Starfruit until you grew your own tree. So I'm amazed to find out that yes, zone 9B can potentially produce them reliably, especially in this area, according to Pete, because his trees just produce year-round. All right, I think the final part of this episode, we're just gonna go ahead and interview Pete today to learn more about the Green Dreams nursery here in Spring Hill, Florida. All right, guys, so now I have the pleasure of interviewing Pete Kanaris for you guys here on the episode, the owner of this amazing nursery that will ship you the plants. I mean, that's the main thing about the nursery here. A lot of nurseries, guys, I visit, they won't ship anything. He could ship to 50 states. So Pete, why did you decide to be able to go through all the, rigmarole to get certified by all the agencies to ship to all 50 states?
This was during the COVID time, and everybody was stuck at home, and I just, I knew how valuable these plants were to get into people's hands, and I guess you could say it only just made sense. At the time, everybody was stuck home, everybody was wanting to grow food. Pretty good at growing plants organically, and I figured it'd give me an opportunity to share them with a wide range.
Wonderful. So yeah, I mean, the original visit to Pete, link down below to that video if you guys want to check it out when I visit his original homestead site where he had the little nursery kind of going on. Why did you decide to buy this big property down the street and literally like develop it into the amazing nursery it is now? It's a lot of work.
That was a good question, John. Once again, COVID. COVID kind of changed the rules in my neighborhood, changed some of the people in my neighborhood. It didn't allow me to sell retail plants from home. This is something that's always been a dream of mine. I just wasn't ready to make the leap. And at the time of not being able to sell from my house and COVID and the new gate being put in at our community, I've been driving by this property, been watching for properties for a long time, and it's been time to make the leap. I wasn't quite ready yet, but it was kind of the catalyst and that pushing point. Rather than having things by appointment, we've always wanted to be able to say, come and shop, look. You don't have that. Prior, I would have a $200 minimum. You have to make an appointment, come and pick up. You had to get a certain amount of plants to where now people can come, they can shop, they can look, they can leave, they can come back. So it's always been a dream. I finally kind of just made the leap with COVID.
Cool. And then how far do people come to visit your nursery to buy some of the rare plants that you're selling?
The furthest I've had is Texas.
Wow, somebody drove here from Texas.
From Texas, yeah. So that's the really cool part about it. We've kind of become a little bit of a destination nursery. A couple of people from Georgia. I mean, I would say on a weekly basis, they travel a couple hours. Last week I had somebody here from Cocoa, Bradenton, the Panhandle. That's 4 hours away. So. All over the state of Florida and anywhere I would say in that, anywhere that's kind of in our growing range. I haven't had anybody here from California yet. Maybe one day, but
you got here somebody from Nevada, Las Vegas.
Well, now that we're shipping to California, they don't have to drive here. So.
Well, yeah, I mean that's the point of the question is actually, now that he's shipping you guys, you don't need to drive here to pick up the plants. So the question I have for you, Pete, is do you ship everything that you sell? Because I know you have areas of things for a local sale and then areas that are certified for shipping. So what percentage of the things you would sell locally do you ship, for example?
That's a good question. I would say that's probably in the 65-70% range. There's a good portion of things that we broker in that we just buy too big. That aren't in a special mix, that aren't certified. That's the big thing with shipping stuff online and the certifications and the inspections. We have to watch that soil from the second it comes out of the bag till however long it's been in that pot. So when we're buying these in from another nursery, it's not likely they had them 24 inches off the ground in a nematode-resistant mix. Yes, they're probably very sterile and they've been treated with chemicals and so on, but they're not in the proper mix for us to be able to ship. So a good 60-65%. If you want bigger stuff, obviously you want to come here in person, but you can still get a good sized fruit tree through the mail. We can ship a really nice 3-gallon Jaboticaba. We ship some lychees, avocados, starfruit, things like that. The only things I'm not shipping, I would say, are mangoes and some of our other really tropical items. We get, believe it or not, we get a lot of people that order stuff in states that shouldn't be ordering. Like today, for instance, was our shipping day. I had a Jaboticaba going to Michigan.
Well, I mean, they could grow it inside in the winter and then roll it out outside in the summer. I mean, they could do it.
100%.
That would totally work.
Yeah, and for us, it's just that risk of traveling this time of year.
Yeah, this time of year, yeah, it's like cold. My bag's stuck in Michigan, actually, right now. Yeah, or next door to Michigan, and it's like nice and cold, which is good for my bag because I have actually perishable food in there.
It's keeping it safe then.
Keeping it cold, but not good for fruit trees.
Not at all. No. So, we've tried heat packs and so on. Those seem to only buy us a couple of days. We're typically speaking, we're sending something to California. We're looking at 5 days. New York around 4 days. Michigan's about 4 days. So if it sits in that truck for 2 days, you know, it's a good chance on a freezing night it will get cooked. So a lot of times we'll push those orders back, like that Jaboticaba I had this morning. We said, hey, would you mind waiting a couple of weeks? Client was okay with that, you know, and we'll hold off. But yeah, you're right. You can grow them in a container almost anywhere. You don't have to be in a 9B or in Florida. I mean, we have people in Canada that have taken these, you know, trees back up north. They're commonly grown as a bonsai also. So it's actually a great container option. I tell people all the time, I mean, this can be like a Christmas tree you bring inside that you reuse every single year with the ornaments on it. You know, when it has the fruit on it and the flowers.
And put some lights too.
That's it. It comes with the decorations. It doesn't really get any better than that. So, you know, how cool is it? We have this amazing tree that fruits 5, 6, 7 times a year. Can be, you know, has its own decorations on it. Can be living in a pot its entire life. So that's what really I think, and it's the most delicious Concord grape I would say you've ever had, kind of maybe mixed with some like lychee type of tropical flavors.
So I see you're so passionate about your Jaboticaba. So what got you interested in Jaboticabas? And for people that don't know what it is, I mean, I taste tested one on the video and it tasted amazing. I think I taste tested a red, but you have the Scarlet variety, and, you know, share more about Jaboticabas and like why people maybe may not have liked them in the past and why now is it time to start growing them.
Yeah, so when I first got into Jaboticabas, you know, this is, Jaboticaba is also known as a Brazilian tree grape. It's the tree of Brazil. If you go into any nice restaurant in Brazil, you know, they have these trees in there. This is a wine very common in Brazil. So for me, I think I got most excited about it, the coliferous production, you know, fruiting off the trunk of the plant. I was like, wow, that's really unique. You know, you see these mature trees and the entire trunk, it almost looks like an alien, you know, the way they fruit off of the trunk like that. And when I first got into this, you know, it was only the common Sabara, or a red, you know, a very freak red you'd see, but mostly Sabara, which, yeah, it's a really cool fruit, but oh my gosh, this tree takes 15 years, you know, 18 years to fruit from seed. It's a really, really long time. I mean, you know, I was buying 3-gallon trees. I think I told you earlier, I have 3-gallon trees that I bought back in 2012 that still aren't fruiting today. You know, we're talking 13 years later and they still don't have a fruit. So what's really exciting is, you know, some of the better varieties like the Scarlet that we're talking about has a thinner skin compared to the Sabara. A lot of people have tried your typical black Jaboticaba, and the interior, the flesh is absolutely delicious, but the skin can have a little bit of a tannin to it.
And it's thick.
And it's a little bit on the thicker side compared to the red, where it's like paper thin, or the Scarlet, it's even more paper thin. The Scarlet, in my opinion, maybe has a little bit more subacid, which I like, you know, in my fruits. So yeah, the Scarlet fruits in 3 years. You know, so that would probably be the most exciting part.
From
you know,
seed.
From seed.
And then from a 1 gallon, that's actually that you would ship people, like I showed in the video. How soon on that one?
They're probably a year away.
A year away.
Depending on how happy that plant is. You know, they want to have a little bit of dappled light. They want to be kind of treated like a blueberry. They like a little bit of that acidic type of soil environment. They get a little bit picky sometimes on tap water or the type of well water it may be. But for the most part, you know, they're fairly carefree. When they're happy, they could fruit 5, 6, 7 times a year. So I've always been a plant lover, and I've been really in love with the growth patterns of the plant, the way the trunk on the tree peels when it's happy. You know, it's, you know, the tree talks to you when it's pushing new growth. It's a different color. I mean, it's a really neat tree to walk by on a constant basis and be able to prune and train. To me, you know, it can be this really cool, compact, small tree that's always going to have a fruit on it. You know, it's like when I walk in that shade house, yes, you only found 1 or 2 today. You come in 2 weeks, you're going to find 1,000. You know, you come in
like 1 or 2 weeks. All those flowers that I'm seeing today in 2 weeks, literally, is going to be that fast.
So, yeah, so they go about 12 days from the start of a flower to a fruit development.
Really?
So
wow.
They are really, really quick in that process to go into a little green fruit. So, yeah, there's almost never a time when there's not a fruit in there. You know, so with my loquats and avocados, all these other fruits, you know, we get that one time a year. I think the most exciting part about the Jaboticaba is how often it is fruiting, and then the flavor of the fruit, and then just the beauty of the tree itself. I think they're very ornamental, gorgeous trees.
So what have you found, like what's the best way to force it to get it to fruit if it's not currently fruiting?
Stressing them out a little bit. So cutting back, even though it's a tree that likes a lot of water, cutting off the water for 4 or 5 days, it seems like that stress stimulates the fruit. The biggest thing that it stimulates fruiting on the Jaboticabas, though, is a change in temperature. So the only time we actually slow down on our fruiting is in the peak of the summer, which is about July, you know, maybe going into August.
Because the weather is pretty consistent.
And it's just so hot too. I feel like as soon as we get that cold shift, boom, you know, they're stimulated again and they're flowering again. So right now, every time we get a cold snap is when they're setting flowers. They really like that change in temperature at night, you know, rather than being the same temp all day and all night long.
And let's talk about growth habit, or like microclimate, the best microclimate for Jaboticaba. So like somebody buys this, they're in a zone 9A like I am. Where would they want to plant in their zone 9A, and how cold tolerant is it really, and for how long?
So the lowest cold temps I've seen is 17 degrees. 17.
So you've gotten 17 in your trees in the ground, and they've survived.
And in pots.
And in pots.
And in pots.
And how big of a tree? I
mean, 3 gallon, 7 gallon, all of them. I mean, you know, we're talking, even with the frost cloth on there, like we used to protect now, they still, you know, they defoliated completely.
They did.
I even had some where the trunk split on them, and they still came back. With a little bit of pruning, you know, the tree ended up coming back.
But don't recommend that. I mean, if you live in Michigan, don't plant them outside.
No,
that's different. 17 here, he's talking for how long?
3 or 4 hours.
3 or 4 hours of 17.
Yeah, so they don't want to be outside. I would say they're comfortable. As you can see some of the brown tops in there, like I was showing you earlier. And to about 28, 29 degrees before they show any damage, they'll easily...
For how long? Just overnight, though?
I had 5 hours.
Temperature. 5 hours of overnight of below 32, but then it warms up in the day to how much?
71.
Back to 71.
We're right back
to the
up
nice
to 71,
weather where it likes it.
Yeah. So that's the nice thing, keeping a container, being able to control where it's kept, you know, if we do have those kind of cold nights. You know, do remember these trees are native to the understory in the rainforest. You know, they want dappled light, you know, so my experience has been keeping them in a little bit more dappled light, not in a full sun situation. When you have them in dappled light, or like we like to keep them underneath the oak trees, obviously you get a little bit more microclimate protection there, you know, in the wintertime.
Yeah, I didn't see any burn on the ones over there, whereas I did see ones in the shade house that has nothing above besides a shade, which is like open.
And that's not giving any protection.
Right, yeah, basically.
So yeah, the tips on those really got kind of hit. Any of that new growth got kind of hit. But you know, my suggestion would be to keep them in a dappled light type of area. The only thing we have noticed every couple of years, and it's very common with people that take these home, you know, they see them here, they're very happy, they're in a perfect environment. We have really nice water, we have really nice dappled light, you know, and they start putting them on city water and they'll sometimes start to get yellow a little bit. The biggest thing we do for that is a little bit of chelated iron, and they turn like within a week. They'll go from that yellow to green and come back. But keeping them in some dappled light, keeping some continual water, and allowing them to have that stress of cold or go without water for a couple days here and there seems to really stimulate that flowering process.
And then any kind of fertilizers that are needed, or will it just grow with, you know, with compost or rock dust like you're using here, or what?
Yeah, so for people buying these that want to pot these up or put them in bigger pots, we really like to use a 90% peat, 10% perlite mix.
So really sterile, like not a lot of compost in there, really.
Not a lot of compost at all. We actually notice if the older trees, when they start to look rough, if we pull them out of the pot, typically that soil is broken down so much and it's starting to get worms in it. For some reason, the Jaboticabas don't like that at all.
Wow, so they like a very crappy soil.
They like a really crappy soil. They don't like the worms. I think the worms are actually eating those fine roots or something.
Wow.
Yeah, that's, and then we use a 464, a sustain, organic, you know, fertilizer on everything. A lot of people use an azalea fertilizer, which is for acidic plants. Osmocote makes an organic one, which I know a couple of Jaboticabas growers that use, but they don't like a lot of nitrogen. They can be burned, you know, very easily. I do like putting a little bit of biochar in with them when I plant them. You know, I think it simulates that native habitat a little bit. They were probably getting in the Amazon. They seem to like that for the long term too. But yeah, just giving them kind of that blueberry type environment, high acidity, and just watch the water. You know, if I know I'm going out of town for a week or two, I'll put a dish under my, you know, my favorite Jaboticaba on my back porch, you know, just fill it with a little water, and it's fine when I get back. You know, the biggest thing is not letting them completely dry out and be forgot about.
I see. So they never want to dry. You always want to keep them a little bit moist, because once again, they're from the rainforest where it would, you know, be moist in the soil even if it's not raining all the time.
Yes, exactly.
So what are some other tips for growing Jaboticaba in a container specifically? Say somebody who lives in, I don't know, Wisconsin, and they want to grow a Jaboticaba in Wisconsin. What are they going to do, Pete?
I think, honestly, the longer you can keep it in that small container, the better.
Really? Don't even pot it up?
So there's another factor of stress, going back to letting the plant stressing those roots and letting them get just densely tight like that, for some reason also seems to stimulate fruiting. So we noticed the ones that we forgot to pot up, are always the first to fruit in a 3-gallon. When we put them, you got to think, when you take that plant and you put it into a bigger pot, it's not going to grow tree, it's going to grow roots, it's going to fill that pot back out. So when we were keeping it in that tight little pot like that, I think it's giving you that, that stress factor once again, that's also making it fruit a little more. So it's just, keeping the water to them, keeping them in a dappled light location. They're beautiful trees. These things could be in your windowsill. Like I said, it could be used as a Christmas tree. It's an amazing talking point. If you have friends over and you have this thing sitting out on the patio or by the pool and they're covered in fruit, I mean, everybody's going to be asking, what is this? It's usually the talk of the party. So Jaboticaba is kind of the show taker.
So when do you finally pot it up, man? If you want to let it get stressed out and get a root ball and wrapped all around in there, I mean, do you just leave it in the small pot forever? Or is there any point where if you're growing into container, not, planting it out in your yard, because you don't live in a zone 9B or better, when do you finally move it?
So you can prune them at the top also and keep them short like a bonsai for life. Don't have to. My rule.
So you never need to pot it up.
You never really have to pot them up. Yeah, if you were to search bonsai Jaboticaba, you're going to see some of the most beautiful trees you've ever seen.
And they make a lot of fruit?
Oh my gosh, every inch of the trunk is fruit. I mean,
even in a small pot.
Even in a small pot, yeah. So
you got to have some of those next, man.
So we're working on it. That is one of the goals. Yeah, keeping them in a small container like that. But I would say my biggest rule of thumb is when it's the tree's falling over too much, I go to a bigger pot. If I'm having
prune it?
A little bit of wind coming in, so either going to prune it or it's getting too big to go to a bigger pot type of situation. So either the one would be fine. All those ones in the shade house, we're not going to go past the 65 gallon. Those were actually all in 15 gallons for about 10 years.
Wow. So
they've only been in those pots for a year or two now. I mean, I think they fruited more when they were in the smaller pots and that dense kind of soil situation like I'm talking about, that stress type of situation. So they slowed down for 6 months or so when we went into these bigger containers. And obviously we're not going to raise the roof in there, so we'll have to keep the top of those constantly pruned to stay into that space.
Wow. So yeah, moving on from Jaboticabas, which are amazing fruit. Once again, the trees stay small, they produce a lot of fruit, they produce all year, 5 to 7 times a year. Moving to another crop that's going to do really good in the zone 9B that I showed in the episode is a Starfruit. You want to talk about the Starfruit and your favorite variety of Starfruit and why you like those trees also for a container grow.
Yeah, so carambola on my own personal farm has been one of the most productive fruit trees ever. We probably get 10 to 12,000 pounds of fruit a year. One mature Starfruit tree can make 2,000 pounds of fruit a year. So they're just overachievers. Now what I had learned is, they don't want full sun. They do not like wind. I had a couple of trees when I first moved into my farm, didn't know a lot about carambola. I planted them out in more of a food forest open area, and they did nothing for almost 2 years. I started reading about them, and I read that, and I was also down at Pine Island, and you notice all of the Starfruit being grown commercially is in shade houses down there. They're growing them in shade, they're keeping them protected from the wind. I ended up transplanting that tree to behind a building, completely protected from the wind. The next year it was 4 times the size and just covered in fruit. So my 2 biggest pro tips on Starfruit or carambola is let's make it 3. If you've never had a homegrown one and you've had a grocery store one, just throw that idea out. They're picked green, they're gassed to ripen, they have no flavor, they're absolutely terrible. Homegrown carambola, I had somebody tell me the other day they compared it to mango, which I was like, okay,
wow.
I don't know about that.
That's a stretch.
That's a stretch, I would agree with that too.
But you can get a pretty good flavor on a carambola though.
Yeah, juiced carambola, and just phenomenal. So, putting them in the shade, mine are all on no irrigation. I heard they thrive on neglect. I never fertilize these trees. They rarely ever get mulched. I prune them. That's the biggest thing, is keeping them to a size so where you don't have to get up on a ladder and get too tall to harvest the fruit. Our 3 most popular varieties is Cherry, which is going to be the sweetest. It's going to be the most orange colored fruit. In my opinion, it's probably the best flavor-wise. Although a good fwang tongue, I would say, it's really which one is in my hand that day. It's like picking a favorite child. You go from tree to tree. They're all really, really good. But the 3 most common would be our Cherry being very sweet, Shriek and Bangin' being very close to a Cherry, little bit of a longer fruit, and then Phuang Tung, which is just can be like a 2-3 pound fruit. You know, almost more of a whiter colored fruit, kind of curls and bends they'll get through kind of the
stars.
The stars,
lobes.
yeah. And the other really cool thing about a starfruit, you know, you can
when you cut it
up, you know, they go great as a garnish on the side of a drink. I mean, great as somebody to, you know, whenever we have starfruit, you mentioned earlier, John, having fruit for people to taste. You know, we cut them up, we stick some toothpicks in them. Most people's eyes light up. They're like, this is a starfruit? Like, I've never tasted a starfruit like that before. And like, you guys can do this too. All you have to do is grow them in your own yard. You know, just don't buy the garbage from the grocery store, because it's literally, it's terrible. I mean, it'll make you, the same thing with bananas, you know. I mean, now that we've grown our own bananas, it's hard to have a store-grown banana. I mean, it's just, there is no comparison.
So on the starfruit trees that you sell in 1 gallon pots, how soon can somebody expect fruit?
So I always tell people, you know, on a lot of these fruit trees, to let the tree grow in the first 2 years, you know, especially an avocado, a mango, things like that. We want to take that energy it would put into fruiting and let it become a bigger, stronger tree. So either pulling the flowers, popping the small fruit, you know, letting that tree grow. Starfruit's the one that doesn't care. You can, 90% of the time when we're selling a starfruit, especially in like a 3 gallon, and the flowers are edible on that tree, they have fruits on them. It doesn't stress the tree out. It doesn't slow the tree down to let them set at a young age like that. Like, just let them go. As I don't know if you noticed, I think I was showing you earlier.
No, I showed it.
Yeah, so 1 gallons have flowers on them. Like, these guys are such overachievers. So getting that tree in the right location, getting it in a dappled light, getting it wind protected, and within 6 months, I mean, literally you can have fruit. It's quicker than any other fruit tree. I mean, it's up there with like a strawberry tree or a Barbados cherry as far as speed to fruit. So they're probably, you know, up on the top of my list.
And then if you want to grow them in a container, what recommendations would you give for somebody?
Pruning, a lot of pruning, you know, because that's the biggest issue is on our 3 gallons, you know, like I said, they're fruiting all the time, but the weight of the fruit will make them want to topple over, you know, so just pruning the tree. I would say probably getting that in a bigger container to kind of help it from that toppling over, 10, 12, you know, 15 gallon size range, you know. I mean, yeah, you could potentially keep that and fruit it in a pot for as long as you'd like, as long as you're controlling the height of the tree.
Wonderful. So we talked about 2 of the best fruits here, but I also want to talk about some of the perennial leafy greens, because that's really what I love. I mean, growing your greens. And I'm glad that you make these available to ship to people. Some of the rare varieties like the variegated Katuk, the standard Katuk, the variegated Suriname spinach, the regular Suriname spinach, my Bele, the Bele trees, the Sissoo, the curly leaf, which is standard, and then the flat leaf. So you want to talk about your favorite perennial greens? I didn't even mention like longevity spinach, Egyptian spinach. Or no, you don't have Egyptian spinach, do you?
Usually do.
Oh.
So Molokia, it's already died back. Yeah,
right,
that is one of my favorites. We normally carry that.
Then the Okinawan spinach.
Yes.
Forgot that one.
Okinawan for beauty is probably one of my favorite colored ones, you know, ground cover wise. Eating wise, fresh out of hand, I would say it's up to Katuk, the new growth on the Katuk. Tastes like a raw pea, you know. It's very, everybody I hand that to, you know. I love to walk clients around the nursery, especially when they have kids, and let them taste stuff and to see their face, and maybe slip a miracle fruit in here or there, you know, see how they react. But Katuk would be up there on the top of my list. The Suriname spinach is pretty high. Malabar is really nice too. I like eating that one out of hand. Some of the different edible leaf hibiscuses. For cooking, I prefer the longevity. I like to put that into like a spaghetti sauce. You know, it's very strong. It's definitely one of those that could be put in a capsule, almost like moringa. You know, like it could.
I don't think so. I think that's
it could almost take over a dish, in my opinion. You think it's mild?
I think it's mild. Maybe it depends on where you grow up. Maybe you have a different variety that's stronger. I didn't try one.
You might be using that cut edge one you were talking about. Yeah.
No.
But yeah, I do find it's a little bit on the stronger side. So you know, we can't taste it at all when I put it into a sauce. And I've had some different Asian clients come in here and tell me, you know, longevity spinach is a panacea in their country. It's touted to have over 1 million different medicinal properties. They use that plant for every different ailment and sickness there is. You know, so I mean, with a lot of these different perennial vegetables, the nutrition level, it's off the charts. You know, when we're comparing to kale or something like that, right? I mean, there is no comparison, especially when it's grown out of the good soils.
Cool. So, what are the top 3 easiest to grow here in your zone 9B?
Perennial green wise?
Yeah, that you could plant and like literally neglect and forget about.
It's either going to be the Sissoo spinach. That one's a plant it, forget it, thrive on neglect.
I'd agree. Like in Puerto Rico, we just planted it, and then it wasn't doing good in Vegas. I took it to Puerto Rico, planted in Puerto Rico, and we don't do anything. It's just underneath a random tree, and it just took off.
Yeah, and the other one would probably be Okinawa or Longevity is probably a little bit more aggressive.
I would say the Longevity is more aggressive.
Just a little bit more aggressive. Nice patches that I planted 12, 13 years ago that I still have on my property. And then last but not least, which has actually started to kind of reseed itself and show up where I haven't planted it, would be the Katuk. It is very easy to grow.
Reseeding or just doing from cuttings itself?
I think it's reseeded itself.
Oh, wow. So the fruit pods.
Yeah, the little seed pods, which they're kind of opening up around here right now. Like, I'm ended up thinning it in some spots. I'm like, I only planted one, now there's 7. So,
nice.
They're very, very, very easy to grow. So all of these kind of in our 9B with our frost might slow down a little bit in the wintertime, but all tend to be pretty root hardy too. So they'll come back if we do get a frost. Like some of my Okinawa right now has a little bit of a frost damage from our last cold front. That'll push right back out in spring. Even if it got frosted down to the roots, it would come back up.
Wonderful. Yeah, so definitely encourage you guys, if you guys live in a zone 9A, I grow many of the plants that I showed you in this episode at my place in Las Vegas. I showed you the guys at Chaya. That's still alive. We haven't gotten to a freezing point yet, but it comes back every year. I didn't show you guys the moringa. He also has moringa. I grow the moringa. That actually, we haven't gotten too cold yet either. The leaves are really nice and yellow right now, but it's still growing. I grow, of course, my favorite, the Bele or edible leaf hibiscus that he has right here too, in like nice sized plants. I grow that every summertime and cut it out and take it to Puerto Rico for a permanent vacation for the winter, because that one definitely doesn't like below 40. I kept one plant this year, and once it got below 40, it's just started rotting out. Didn't do good at all. But yeah, and then the Katuk hasn't grown for me well in Vegas in zone 9A. I think it was just too dry. It liked more humidity, and I was just too hot and too dry for it. But yeah, a lot of these plants could do great, especially like in California. He will ship to you guys, and then of course, you could try these other rare perennials in other places, and just once again grow them outside and bring them in a pot, and then bring them inside in the winter, keep them alive, and bring them back outside. And of course, you could do cuttings. Actually, all my Bele, I did cuttings this year. So before it got too cold, I did cuttings, just put it in a vase of water. It grew roots, and I'll plant those out next year. So you could always keep these plants alive, whether you want to bring them inside, take them outside, do cuttings, grow the cuttings inside in the winter, and then plant them back out in the springtime. And then of course, we learned about the most amazing 2 fruit trees that you want to grow into zone 9B, probably even zone 9A in a protected area, or even in a container in a pot. So Pete, if somebody wants to order these amazing trees, how can they do that?
Head over to the website, greendreamsfl.com.
And then also, of course, I want to encourage you guys to visit Pete's social media, including his YouTube channel, Instagram, TikTok, all these things. He makes some amazing video content on. And what are those?
Green Dreams TV. So yeah, if you guys don't want to make the drive down to Florida to see me, we're just north of Tampa here on the West Coast. Head over to any of the platforms, TikTok, Green Dreams TV, Instagram, the same, and same on YouTube.
And then what are your hours here at the nursery if they want to drive down?
So at the nursery, we're open Tuesdays through Saturdays, Tuesday through Friday, 9 to 5, Saturday, 8 to 3, and then some special events from time to time.
And what is your address here?
I'm at 18709 US Highway 41, Spring Hill, Florida.
All right, great. And it's greendreamsfl.com.
That is correct, John.
All right, wonderful. All right, Pete. Well, I had an amazing visit here today as the sun goes down. I got a bunch of more stuff to do, including go back to the airport to get my luggage. I didn't get on the plane today.
That's terrible.
Yeah, so anyways, I hope you guys really enjoyed this episode. Once again, if you guys enjoyed viewing Pete's updated place now, make sure you guys check the original video that is linked down below when I visited him like 7 years ago now. That was another amazing episode showing all the work this amazing man is doing here in Southwest Florida to grow food, and more importantly, teach people about growing food, even across the country, because he's shipping these rare plants. Not a lot of places do that to you guys, so you guys could also grow some rare tropical and perennial fruits and vegetables in your own garden. So if you guys enjoyed this episode, please be sure to give this a big thumbs up and share with the other people out there, especially ones that live in Southwest Florida, so they could learn about one of the best nurseries here in the area. Also be sure to click that subscribe button right down below so you don't miss my new and upcoming episodes upcoming every 5 to 7 days. You never know where I'll show up, what you'll be learning on my YouTube channel. Make sure you click the little bell so you get notified as my new videos come out. And finally, be sure to turn past episodes. My past episodes are a wealth of knowledge. Over 17 episodes at this time on this channel dedicated to you guys how to grow your own food at home. Once again, link down below to that original video I made with Pete many years ago. So with that, my name is John Gola with growingyourgreens.com. We'll see you next time, and until then, remember, keep on growing.